Oh!
All right, fucking long awaited.
Oh!
This is gonna be my review of the SIGI Sabre. Sent to me by Martin Fabian of SIGI Forge. The joke is, oh haha, how brave, but actually I do feel that it is quite brave because I do break blades and I do post on social media, so obviously I'm gonna talk about it, right? No! I mean, you gotta have balls to do that, man. You gotta really believe in your product when you do something like that, for sure. So here it is. This is the new SIGI Sabre Lite that is on offer from SIGI Forge, roughly 750 grams, I think, ranging up to like 850. I don't know, I'll put it on the screen. So let's just get down to it. And like, firstly, we're all friends here, right? So I'm just gonna speak, pretty openly and honestly about my thoughts on this saber, which are a little mixed, but mostly positive. And I guess like we'll start with the positives. So like, firstly, it's a beautiful piece, right? I mean, this is like roughly like 400, I think that it's gonna be. I don't know if it's listed yet, but just judging on like SIGI's prices, and of course SIGI's like well-known quality in their work, this is a beautiful saber. Very little like jiggle in the handle, although there is a small amount. When you squeeze a little bit, you can hear it sort of creaking. That is entirely normal. These are tools. They are meant to hit other swords and people, so they are going to rattle a little bit, although there's no rattle with this. Very nice custom red handle. I like the guard, even though there have been some complaints about it being too small. I think if you see here, a bit of my hand is exposed, a bit of my hand is exposed. Personally, I would like a little bit of a larger guard. I do believe that they offer that, however. Secondly, I like the fuller on it. I think that that's a beautiful touch, and it adds a lot to like the balance of this saber. We'll go more into that here in just a second. It's very well done. I like the spatulated tip that it has on it. I find that quite safe. I don't like using rubber blunts. I will use leather tips. So this is kind of a way that I can get around using these fucking stupid leather blunts. So SIGI does offer some other sabers like in their lineup as well. One that I've actually used that frankly I didn't really care for, the SIGI Sabre Pro, was just far too heavy. It was just far too heavy. So I don't think that it's any surprise that we're seeing this now. Yeah, so as far as the positives, that's really all that I can think of right now. It's a beautiful piece. It's very well done for what it is. But I think considering its context and where we can, place it in at least my personal HEMA practice, that's where it sort of starts to fall a little bit short. So, and obviously like context matters. So let's go into some context as to why I don't think that this is the perfect saber for me. So, within Sabre, I think a lot of people know that there's a lot of variants in Sabre, right? So like here we have a sports saber, quite small. Going back in time a little bit and into the more martially valid zone, we have this, which is a dueling saber. This is my preferred weapon. Again, another dueling saber such as this. And then going up more into that heavier section, this isn't the best example. This is a Hanwei Hutton, very popular, very cheap blade. I think that speaks to its popularity. But this is something more of like an infantry officer style, right? Like a little bit heavier, a little bit more weight to it. And then as we go further back in time on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have something like this, right? A Polish saber, a cavalry style saber. And this is probably, again, that furthest end of the spectrum as far as weight goes, right? So where does the SIGI Sabre land in this spectrum of the sabers that we see? It definitely lands to something closer like this, right? A sort of infantry officer saber. While this is about 750 grams on the lighter end, which is beautiful, this here is about like 650, right? I mean, I think that people have even gotten these down to 600 grams. And now we get into like the differences like in the cultures of active HEMA, like spanning the world, right? So SIGI, I think, really focuses on the European market, and the Europeans are known like in their tournaments to use heavier sabers, right? Or at least heavier than something that we use here in the States, which is closer to this. Here in the States, if you do saber, if you do well in saber tournaments, you are most likely going to be using a dueling saber. And that is not true in Europe. And then, you know, that poses the predicament to me as a fencer, as a competitor, if American tournaments are not going to have like a weight minimum on their swords. I'm not sure if they do in Europe or not, but if they're not going to demand like a minimum weight for their swords, why would I use something that's 100 grams heavier when I could be using the lightest weapon possible? So really, that's kind of the issue for me as a competitor, as somebody who does focus on, number one, dueling saber, and also saber tournaments, right? Why would I go for this when it's 100 grams heavier when I could be going for this? Now, before a lot of you get your fucking like jimmies in a rustle, let me just say that I know that there are a lot of people who don't prefer using these lighter dueling saber blades. There are a lot of people who say that these are car antennas. They're not. There are a lot of people who say that these are not martially valid. They are. But if you are going to be one of those people, this is an excellent option for you. This is probably the most like well-balanced infantry style blade that I've ever used. Now, I will say that most of my experiences with the blades that you've seen here, mostly dueling sabers, but honestly, like, this feels beautiful. You know, I know that like a lot of the longsword dudes will like scoff at me like taking 100 grams into too much of an account. But like, dude, when you do saber, like 100 grams matters, man. And 100 grams like wear on the blade matters as well. This is excellently balanced. I can actually do some of my dueling saber things with this. Whereas if I were to try to do some of my dueling saber stuff with something like this, I'd fucking rip my tendons out. This sort of brings me to the end of the review. If you are somebody who is just dead set on using a heavier saber, but you want to make it work in tournaments, this is your option, for sure. This is an excellent, excellent middle of the road type of sword. Definitely an excellent option for somebody who doesn't want to use a lighter dueling saber, but who wants something that's a little bit more, say, tournament viable than something like this. SIGI Saber Light, check it out.